Hello everyone and welcome to the round 16 lockdown countdown Q&A stream. I had to double take for a second to remember what round we're in. Off to a great start for the stream, of course. Great to see people in the chat join me on this Friday night. The fact that you're with me on a Friday night shows some serious dedication. You could be out at the pub, you could be out on a date, you could be out, with your wife or whatever. I don't know what you could be out on, but you chose to sit and watch me on this Friday evening. So I very much appreciate that. Probably doesn't tell you much about what I've got going on my Friday night, but that's okay. I'm happy enough to just be indoors. It's freezing outside here in Sydney, and just to do a stream and then get to watch some rugby and kick back with some food and just chill out. That is fine by me. So yeah, thank you to everyone joining in. Duncan D's proverbial great username. Chris Queenslander, John T, Davey K, Peanut Gallery, Jason, Mark Lawless, Aiden, Flash Blue. Thank you all for joining me, and plenty of others as well. Give the stream a like as well if you do enjoy it as we count down until round 16. Obviously carnage, as Aiden says, for sure. Lots of players out. And we'll try to get to as many of your questions as well during the stream. I'll spend probably the first kind of 5 or so minutes just talking through what I'm thinking with my team and trades. I think I'm pretty much locked into it. I've actually done the trades, although I might reverse it just because of I don't actually need to make my moves today. Just I'm not affected by Panthers and Cowboys players looking out. But yeah, basically in terms of what I've done with my team. So on Tuesday, I mentioned I was going to do Fafita to Hines and probably leave it at that. That way I was going to keep Moses. What I've just decided instead though is I'm thinking of just going Fafita, and what I figured out was I can go via duels to Ponga this week. I've liked the look of Ponga, and I thought I don't really need it for numbers, but I've just thought maybe Ponga just, Panthers next week is tough, but look, the Roosters at home I think is a good game for Ponga, playing at fullback. And, in round 18, he's got the Bulldogs, which I really like. Fullbacks have done very well against the Bulldogs recently. Gutherson, 138 last week. Teddy got a ton, I think, the week before. And, they're not looking the best in terms of defense. So I like these two matchups. The game against the Panthers is tough, don't get me wrong. So that could be a game where he goes quite poorly. And look, he doesn't cover round 19 either, so that's not ideal. But I guess in terms of I'm looking at Fafita versus Ponga, Fafita misses 16 and misses 19. At least Ponga is playing this week. And look, even if Ponga comes in for Game 3 Origin, like let's say hypothetically Reece Walsh is injured, he was never going to play that week anyway. And I'd be happy enough to have Ponga as my second 5'8" for the rest of the season. But if I wanted to get someone like a Munster, look, we can always look to take out Ponga potentially. Or what I'd probably more likely do is, depending on how Buller goes, maybe say with the Tigers' few injuries, I can go Buller to Munster via the duels and switch Ponga down to my fullback, or maybe Gutherson to Ponga, because I can see myself wanting Turbo for the run home. Latrell is an interesting one at fullback because he's got these couple of injuries, and also the Rabbitohs do have a bye in round 20 and I think round 26, I want to say, or round 27. So they do have a couple of buys, so I'm kind of thinking maybe Latrell could be a potential antipod. The draw and the run home isn't fantastic either. What I do like about Ponga though is the run home I don't think is that difficult in my opinion in the long term. Tigers in 21 Melbourne is tough, but Canberra, Dolphins, Bulldogs, Rabbitohs, Sharks, Dragons, like there's a few good games. That last month all at home for Newcastle as well. I'm thinking Ponga could be, at a pinch if he needs to run home as my second fullback or second 5'8", I think I can do it. Obviously I will want Fafita back, but the way that I'm also justifying it to myself is I'm 7,500 rank wise, and I feel like I've been just playing it safe, to be honest. And I think I just need to make some moves to try to get up. And I think having someone like Ponga this week could be good. I think he does have potential to go big this week. So I've gone Fafita to Ponga via duel. So I've switched Schuster up to my second row forward. And then I've actually also done Moses to Hines. So obviously Hines I think is pretty much a must-have this week. And, look, trading in Moses, I'll say it was probably a mistake last week, with this risk that he was going to play Origin, and I was fully aware of it. My plan last week was to hold him, but then just listening to a few podcasts and thinking about it a little bit more, Moses, especially I mentioned it on Tuesday, what do we think New South Wales will do for Game 3, win or lose? I think majority were like, and this is my opinion too, that Moses is probably staying in Game 3, irrespective of if New South Wales win 100%, he's staying. And if it's a loss, like, can they change a team, bring back Nico? Maybe, but the chances of that, I'm not sure. So I'm operating on the basis that Moses will miss 16, 19, and he also misses 18. So that's 3 of the next 4. The round 17 game is very good though against the Dolphins, and I do think he will back up. So you could easily hold him, and look, maybe in round 18 you move off him. But the reason that I'm looking to do Moses to Hines, in addition to getting Ponga, obviously, is that I think I want Hines this week for sure. And that those 2 sets of trades leave me with 419k in the bank, which is good because it means that next week when Hines is on the bye, I can go Isaiah Katoa out for Johnson. So I can go for Sean Johnson, which, look, obviously last week the move would have been Cleary to SJ because SJ scored a ton and he would have obviously missed out this week, but he would have been sitting there kind of waiting for me, I guess, in round 17. And I like Johnson's round 17 matchup, which is against the Dragons. And look, I'm personally still not overly sold, I think, on Jerome Hughes. Whereas SJ I'm much more keen on, to be honest, than say Hughes. Like, I think Johnson is probably the 3rd best halfback behind Cleary and Hines for Supercoach. He does have the 1 bye in round 22, but I know with SJ he plays 17 through to 22, so he covers round 19, which is good. Whereas there's no certainty of that with Mitch Moses, I guess, at this point. And he's got the Dragons in round 17, so I like Johnson. And he has, I think, a negative break even. So my thinking was, if I go trade SJ in next week, and if he's already like 705k. So my thinking was, he's probably going to go up again in price. And if he hopefully maintains about a 800k price tag, going to Cleary, if I need to go back to Cleary in round, say, 22, when, say, SJ's on the bye, I think it's a easier possibility. And worst comes to worst, let's say Cleary's at this, like, I hope not, but let's say there's a setback with his hamstring injury, and if I'm hypothetically stuck with SJ, I'm fine with that because I view him as the 3rd best halfback for the run home. So that's the plan, because I do want to start getting rid of some deadwood, the likes of Matt Dury, Isaiah Katoa. Like, they're just not really doing anything for me at this point in time. So I do want to try to start being able to get rid of them while also being able to have a bit of a plan to get back to some guns. So at least I'm getting Hines back this week, which is good. I'm kind of firming up that 5'8" spot as well with a Ponga. My center wing, I think, has been okay. Maybe I get rid of Billy Smith, but you can tell as well that round 17 is going to be quite difficult for me, given that we have the Tigers, Bulldogs, and the Sharks on the bye. I am going to be very short next week. That is the issue. I'm viewing next week for myself as a bit of a down week. So I'm kind of thinking maybe I can make some gains this week, and that hopefully offsets whatever I will lose next week, because I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm pretty sure there's 7. I'm missing someone else who's out this next week, but I think maybe that was before. Reed Marnie, Edwards, and Bateman, sorry. My entire second row forward is going to be out. My entire starting second row forward is going to be out next week. So that's already 5 there, plus Hines 6, plus Buller 7. I'm going to have 7 out next week straight away, plus Howarth is enough. So that's 8. So I'm already on, 17, and that's including someone like a Matt Dury. So I'm going to be a little bit short next week. So, maybe Isaiah Katoa trading out isn't the play, but to be honest, Edwards and Miney one of them could go, but they do play around 19. Those starting 3 second row forwards, I don't think I'm going to be wanting to get rid of. Buller, maybe Buller out. Like, I could maybe do Buller for like a Munster, for example, via the duel of Ponga, and maybe go Isaiah Katoa to SJ. That could be something I could do next week to start getting back to some guns. But yeah, next week is going to be a struggle for me. But I want to attack this week with these 2 moves. That leaves me with, I think, 16 players for this week, which includes Matt Dury, who's a bench, so I'm going to not count him. I'm going to count that as 15 players, and Billy Smith. So a couple of duds there. So I'm hoping that this week, if I've got a strong 17 or 15, 16, I should say, then hopefully some good green arrows this week. But that's the latest of my moves. I don't think I'll be doing anything else. And hopefully that helps you in terms of how you're viewing me thinking about certain players as well. But yeah, that'll be my moves for the week. Captaincy on Hines is completely locked. Only decision I think is my VC. It's down to Ponga, Manu, or Gutho. At the moment, it's on Manu. That's kind of what I was thinking on Tuesday. That could still move to Ponga. I haven't tipped that game yet, so I'm not too sure yet. So I'm not sure how I think that game's going to go. Otherwise, I go Gutherson with the goal kicking. So that's the reason why I've got. Well, yeah, that's how I've got it at the moment. Anyway, that's my team. Apologies, I haven't got to any of your questions, but I just thought it'd be good just to give you guys an overview of what I'm thinking for this week. And so, yeah, those are going to be my moves. Fingers crossed for Fifita just goes down in price, and I can hopefully get him back for, maybe, I don't know how I would do it, but maybe someone like, if I have bulk cash, maybe like a Matt Dury, I don't know. But that's a future Oman problem, I think. For now, 16 trades left after those two moves feels okay as well, and obviously a lot of money in the bank. So the plan is for next week, Isaiah Katoa to SJ, and maybe, if I'm feeling it, I can't remember who the Storm have in round 17, but let's assume Munster backs up. Buller is going to be more expensive than Munster, and Munster in round 17 has Manly at home, so that could be a good game. So I mean, that maybe not, because Buller covers round 19, but anyway, that's a future Oman problem. This is the team for this week. Let's get to your questions now. We've got about 46 minutes, so hopefully that should be enough time to get to everyone. I'm just going to, before I get to any questions, I'm just seeing if there's any haircut questions, because I need to get those out of the way first. They're the most important for sure. Dean Pickup, nice hair. Gutho Kennedy, you got me. I prefer Gutherson, in my opinion. Look, I spoke about fullbacks versus the Bulldogs. They've, in the last couple of weeks, done very well. But long term, I think I prefer Gutherson. He just has that flaw that Kennedy doesn't have. Higher work rate, higher base stats. And I think we saw last week, who knows what's going to happen with Dylan Brown, but I think without Dylan Brown in the team, Gutherson really takes a leading role. And I think it's really good for him for Supercoach. So I just prefer Gutherson. I think he'll be more consistent, and he could be that player who just gets like between 65 to 80 every week, which you'll take. Kennedy can go big, but he can have those games where he goes like 25, 30. So yeah, for me, I do prefer Gutherson. Fresh cut of mine. Thank you, Sebastian. Hope you're all starting to not wash your hair with shampoo and conditioner, and you're starting to go via the leave-in conditioner route. Nice haircut of mine from Hamish, of course. Thank you all so much. All right, let's get to your questions. So apologies, people who kind of asked a little bit earlier. Let's see. I'll just, if you asked earlier, I'd say re-ask it. I'm just going to go via the chat because it's constantly moving. Must be getting haircuts from the QVB, very sharp. I go local, not in the city. Haircuts in the city are just way too expensive. Benny G, Evening Legend, thoughts on Fifita to Gutho? Look, actions speak louder than words. I've sold Fifita. You just heard me talk about Gutherson. I really like him. To be honest, I like that move because, look, Gutherson he'll play 16, 17, 19. So he'll play 3 of the next 4. Fifita will only play 17, 18. And 17 he'll be backing up as well from Origin. I think Gutherson will outscore him during this period of time. And fingers crossed for Fifita, if he goes down by like 150, 200k maybe to like 700, hopefully that means it's easier to pick him up. But yeah, no, I don't mind that Gutherson move. I do like him this week. Hey man, would you get Ronaldo, Meany or Gagai this week? So I think this question comes down to your numbers for round 17. Just take a look and see how you're faring for next week. If you're going to be really, really short and it's going to be very difficult, then I would probably lean away from Ronaldo. But he is my favorite of those 3. Between Meany or Gagai, like Meany probably has shown high ceiling, I think, this season. I think he's got a couple of tons where I think Gagai's only got the 1. So again, I think both have got similar flaws, given that Gagai's got that really good base of 40, whereas Meany's got, I think, let me just quickly check it up here. He's got base of 24, but if you assume he kicks at least 2-3 goals a game, that's at least 12 points. So more or less the floor for them is about the same. Gagai won't neither play round 19, I guess. So, I mean, I prefer the matchup, I think, for Meany this week against the Tigers. Like that could be a really good game for him. I think I'd just edge Meany. Gagai, though, I think if you're going for a pod, is definitely the best centre wing pod, I think, to go for, because, you know, even if he gets a call up for game 3 for Origin, say due to injury, Knights have the bye that week anyway. We talked about that run home. It's really good as well for Newcastle. Like I think they're showing some good signs, especially with Ponga now playing fullback. And Gagai's just super solid. 5-round average of 67. You can't go wrong with him. So I think kind of depends between Meany and Gagai. Are you going for a pod? And if you're going for someone who's just more consistent than Gagai, I think I slightly still prefer Meany just because of the goal kicking. You just know that even in a down week like last week where he got nothing attacking stats wise, still managed like 63. Gagai maybe can go those weeks where he goes like 45, 50, whereas Meany probably has a better chance of just going like the 60. So out of them two, Meany just. Overall though, I do prefer Mulatalo. I think just the Sharks run is amazing, and I think he's got that. He's got both. I don't know. He just feels like any given week he can always score at least 1 or 2 tries. But yeah, just be conscious of your round 17 numbers with Mulatalo. So if there are any future questions about Meaney or Mulatalo, again, I'm just going to point you to the same rationale. I prefer Mulatalo, but it also just be conscious of your round 17 numbers. If you're strictly, say, head-to-head, and you don't care about the major buys, then yeah, I'd probably straight away say, yeah, Mulatalo in my opinion. VC Ponga or Meaney, to be honest, that's tough. I mean, Meaney goal kicking this week could be really good against the Tigers, but I don't know. I've got a feeling about Ponga. I'm liking the way he's looking. And look, Roosters have been leaky, so I think Ponga at home could be a good matchup for him. It's a Saturday afternoon. I think it's like a 3 o'clock game. Yeah, it's a 3 o'clock game for Ponga, so I like that daytime game. The Tigers game is Saturday. It's cold, maybe dewy. Could be that ugly type of affair. I think I'd probably just lean about Ponga, to be honest. Hey man, thoughts on Khan Pereira and Sam Hughes to Mulatalo and Fainu. I think that's Fainu from the Sea Eagles. I mean, yeah, look, Sam Hughes, to be honest, yeah, I don't know why you would have had him in your team. No offense. And look, Khan Pereira, I think, is right for selling. I think he's made some good coin. Obviously, a lot of us moved off from him a fair few weeks ago, but yeah, he's got 110 break even at 489k. I think it's a very good time to be culling him. Look, Titans don't have any more buys after this week, but Broncos round 17, that's a tough game. So yeah, look, I think he's someone that you can look to upgrade to a keeper. So Mulatalo is great. And look, there's not a lot of downgrades. I'm assuming you're downgrading to Fainu just to create some funds. Really, there's not a lot of good downgrade options, but he is 257k with a low break even. And I think Gerbo is maybe due back about round 19. So look, he may potentially get dual as well, Fainu. So it could be useful. So I don't mind him as a downgrade just for the fact that if he eventually enoughs out, I think he may have a good chance of getting dual. So no, I think those two trades are good because I like Mulatalo. Croker or Billy Smith to Mulatalo. Again, numbers dependent. I think out of the two, Croker's probably shown... I mean, Billy Smith has gone 80 plus the first 2 weeks when no one owned him. And it seems as though he should be playing this week. But like both of them are due for upgrading. I think Croker's done a good job, but you don't really need to hold him, I think, moving forward. He's a bit more expensive as well. He's 436k. I mean, they both play round 17, so I don't even think that comes into question. To be honest, I'd probably get rid of Billy Smith first, if I'm being honest, just because there's this injury doubt. And if he plays this week, it's the Panthers, and he's got a higher break even, more chance of him leaking cash. Sorry, not Panthers this week, Newcastle this week, apologies. At least the thing with Croker is that if you had to hold him until round 19, he has the Titans. So he has Roosters round 17, Titans round 18, Dragons round 19. So he could actually just be handy for you in that round 19 week. Then he has a bye in round 20. Croker, I think if you are tossing and turning about who to sell, maybe sell Smith first. I mean, look, it sounds weird because Billy Smith is playing today, or playing this weekend, I should say. But if you're okay with your numbers and you can look to sell him, I'd probably sell him above Croker because I think Croker actually might be very handy for you in round 19. Any season keepers, not Origin stars, I should be getting this week. I have 19 trades left. To me, it has to be Nico Hines, I think, is the season keeper. I think you'll want him for the rest of the season. Next week is his last bye, and the Sharks have just long-term a really good run home. So Hines 100% stands out. I'm kind of semi-viewing Ponga as a keeper, so I think he's another one that I think if you look to bring in this week, he can also be someone that you can look to hold for the rest of the season. You got a fair few trades left as well, Davey K. So yeah, I think Britton Nikora is another. Sharks players really stand out. You know, Mulatalo, Britton Nikora, Nico Hines. Those three really stand out for me as season keepers who play this week. Obviously, the round 17 bye is not ideal, but it just might have to be a week that we cop a poor week, and then after that, you can enjoy some future points. Ponga, I like. Bateman is semi a keeper, but I'm happy with him as a run home guy. But look, let's say hypothetically I have to sell Bateman to go back to Fafita. That's probably a trade I'd be okay doing. But he's someone I think you could buy this week who you'd look to hold maybe for the rest of the season. So really the Sharks players, maybe Ponga, maybe Manu, but I don't think a lot of people will be viewing him as a season keeper, but he'll be a really good option this week. Maybe Gutherson, because the fullback position, I think, for the run home, I don't know how many people are going to go Tedesco. Turbo seems to be the one who stands out. Maybe a Reece Walsh, except they have a couple of buys in the run home too. Whereas the Eels, I think, after their round 18 bye, I think they may only have one more bye left because they've had a bye in round 14. They'll have one in round 18. So yeah, they will have one more bye for the run home, but maybe Gutherson. So there's not a lot, but Sharks players, I think, are the ones who stand out. Chris says, is Teddy a season hold? Thinking of sending him for Mulatalo Jules, then later trade out Minor to a gun post-Origin. Look, if I'm being honest, it's a weird one with the Roosters and Tedesco because we've seen it the last couple of seasons. Post-Origin, they've just gone on these runs where everything seems to click and they start doing very well. And Teddy, look, his 3-round average is 101, so he has picked up some form. Run home for the Roosters, it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, we're looking at, let's say, post-bye, we're looking at Melbourne, Titans, Broncos, Manly, Dolphins. So there's probably, I'd say, the Titans, Manly, and Dolphins game are good. Parramatta, Tigers, and Rabbitohs. It's literally probably an equal mix of good and bad. He's at a good price tag now of $730k, so he's made some money. Look, I don't mind going to Mulatalo. I assume Teddy will back up next week anyway. I think the Roosters just have to have him playing. So I don't mind going Mulatalo this week, but there's definitely a case to hold Teddy, especially at the fullback spot, and especially if you're low on trades too. But yeah, I think he's someone that you could look to move on, maybe for a Mulatalo, because I think Mulatalo and him will maybe keep par with each other. Hey man, is AFB a trade out? Have Haas, Kepi, Edwards, could always move Horsburgh to front row forward as well. Yeah, someone else asked me earlier this, I think I replied to this in the morning while I was on the train to work actually. I don't think AFB is a trade out. I know he's at a really high value and you could make some money selling him, but to me it feels like one of those, like front row forward I think is just such a position that I think you just want to kind of set and forget there. And really, if I'm looking at the top 4 front row forwards, it's probably Payne Haas, Tino, Fanua Blake is probably in there for me, and then it's one of Tarpany or Tohu. I think if you've got Fanua Blake, I think he covers round 19 as well. Who you're trading to, I guess, is the question as well this week, especially if you're trading in front row forward. It's not a great position to target for this week. So for me, AFB, I think if you could, I'd probably look to hold. Do I think Val and Toto back up? Toto is harder to say because, let's see, when did the Panthers... Let me just quickly get up my little Origin spreadsheet. Just bear with me, and I'll try to bring it up for a second as well on the screen too, if I can do that on the fly. Let's have a quick look-see here. So, okay, 1 second. Okay, can we do this on the fly? Yes, we can. Fantastic. So, if you see here, round 17, the Panthers play on the Saturday. So that's so after Wednesday, that's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So they've got kind of 2.5, 3 days rest. The Cowboys have a 3-day turnaround. I think Val Holmes will definitely back up because I think he even backed up last time playing off, I think, a shorter turnaround. Toto is more of a question mark, but I think, and the Newcastle at home is a game that he could theoretically rest. Although I think what we've seen in previous season is that round 20 seems to be the match, after all the 3 Origins is when Penrith rest their stars. So my feeling would be that Toto plays that game because Newcastle is not super easy. The round 20 game, though, is against the Dolphins. Maybe the Panthers look at that and say, this is when we're going to rest Luai, Crichton, Toto, etc. So if you're talking backing up for this week, I think they both will. Round 20, I assume the Cowboys will play Val Holmes again. I think he'll just continue to back up. Are players like Kepi or Schuster worth trading out for Ponga, even if they play this week? Yeah, look, I don't mind doing these kind of moves this week. If you're looking to upgrade some of your kind of cash cows who've peaked in price and bring in some guys who are semi-guns, if not like season keepers, I think it's a fine strategy, even if they play this week. Like, if you can do Kepi to Ponga, that's probably a trade that I'd get behind, to be honest. Currently have Cook and Grant at hooker. Should I trade one of them to Simpkin or hold both until end of the season? I would just hold Tom because hooker, I spoke about on Tuesday, the position is just a very weak one so far. You've got Grant, you stick solid with him. And look, Cook is going to miss some games, but he has been the second best averaging hooker. Him and Marshall King are pretty much on par. Look, and if you're trading to someone this week, it's going to be like a Simpkin, Brendan Hands, or Reed Marty. I don't love it. I would just stick with them too and just cop not having a hooker this week. Do we need a second gun hooker from Jonty? Again, similar vein. I don't think so. If you're looking at your squad makeup and probably what you're thinking for reserves for the run home, I think everyone will try to have the Cleary-Hines combination. Everyone is probably going to try to have a Cody Munster or a Munster Ponga type configuration. So I think 2 of your reserves are already going to be in your halves. Same with fullback. And so then your fourth reserve is going to be probably either going to be, I think centre wing is an easy position to load up on. So I think you'll have either a fourth centre wing or a fourth second row forward. maybe even front row forward. I don't think you need two gun hookers this season. I think you can stick, like the spine positions apart from the hooker, I think are going to be much more important. And then I think what I'll probably look to be doing is having like a fourth center wing or fourth second row forward as my main reserves. When am I looking to bring Fafita back in? It would probably be like, again, round 20. The Titans have a 3-day turnaround, so there's a fair chance that he'll back up that week. It kind of, I think, depends on his break even. Like, let's say he managed to get a really high score in round 18. Let's say he's got a low break even, and it's a 3-day turnaround. I might have to try to get him back in round 20. Otherwise, I might just wait until round 21. That's probably going to be one of those 2 weeks, I'd imagine. Let me just get back to the team. Would you go Ronaldo or Nico this week? Plan to get the other after the bye. Ooh, that's a really tough one. Really, really tough one. If I had to go one this week. Oh, now, see, when you start asking questions like this is also from Saska, I think, is asked. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's what I just read. Geez, you have to start thinking about how you think the game is going to go down, I guess. Like, Bulldogs consider a lot of their points on their left kind of edge. Like, Tavita Pangai Jr. got absolutely wrecked by Moses, which would be Nikora territory. But Sivo did score 1 try, and he very easily could have got a double, except they pulled one of his tries back, which I didn't think was the right call. So he easily could have scored a double. So they're both, I mean, Ronaldo with a double can easily go 90 plus. Nikora, if he gets he scored 55 with a sin bin. Let's take that out. 65. One major attacking stat is looking about 75, 80. God, it's such a tough one this week. What's the price of Mulatalo? What's Mulatalo's price? I think he's about a little bit cheaper than Nikora, and he's got a 85 break even. Whereas Nikora's got a break even, I think that's much more achievable. No, he's got 93. Okay. So Mulatalo's cheaper and has a lower break even. You could argue probably chance of him scoring 1 or 2 tries is higher. I think I would just go Mulatalo, and then I'd get Nikora the week after. Oh, in round 18. So yeah, I think Mulatalo just. Ponga VC, yeah, look, very fair shout. I haven't decided on my VC, but I'm kind of, like, the thing is, like, if I quickly look at captaincy, vice-captaincy percentages for coming into this week. So let's have a quick look. And let's look in the top 5%. Let's just to kind of look at probably the guys who are probably more actively playing. So you can see how highly owned Nico Hines is, and he's the 86% captain. So, like, Hines, if you don't get Hines this week and he goes huge, that number will absolutely burn you. In terms of VCs, Manu is the highest VC. Very closely behind him is Ponga. So you can kind of flip a coin between them two. Gutherson's 7% VC is looking kind of good for, like, if you're going for maybe a little bit left field. Don't mind that as a good play because he's actually not that highly VC'd at this point in time. Like, Buller's got more than him, and Garrick as well. I'd probably prefer Gutherson, I think, to those two, if I'm being honest. Yeah, Ponga is definitely a VC. I think that is going to be a decision I will make tomorrow afternoon, just seeing how I feel. At the moment, it's on Manu, because I think Manu just, like, there was a game last season, round 13, where he literally got 110 base power playing at fullback. Like, insane. Insane. I can't understand how someone can get that. Although I don't think he's going to be doing that. He's not been doing that as much this season. So it's kind of like the form guy or the guy with the pedigree in his position. I guess Ponga's got pedigree as well. I guess Manu is your safer VC. Like, the chances of him going like 60, 70 is probably higher than Ponga, but Ponga probably, I think, has a higher ceiling this week. It's a really tough matchup to call. I think the Roosters need a bounce back, but, you know, missing some of the origin, or missing Teddy, really. The rest of the team's more or less unchanged. Same with the Knights. Tough. It's a really tough one. At the moment, I'm just leaning Manu, but I can see myself very easily going Ponga, if I'm being honest. Do you reckon Haas, Cook, Moses, and Grant back up? I think Moses definitely will back up, in my opinion. I think the Eels, they need to keep winning games, and I think they're showing some good recent form. I think Moses will play. Just looking quickly again at the backups, Melbourne have a 2-day turnaround against Manly. I think Grant will back up. Maybe not play full 80, but I think he'll back up. Broncos have a 3-game turnaround against the Titans. I think he'll back up Payne Haas, especially if Tino probably will back up as well. They probably need to counteract that in the forwards. And who's your other guy? Cook. Rabbitohs have a 3-day turnaround against Cowboys. Yeah, I think there's a good chance all 4 of them back up. Because the game is in Queensland as well, so it's not like last time where it was in Adelaide, so the travel was probably a little bit further for some of these guys. So I think, yeah, there's probably a fair chance that those 4 all back up. Marzu hold, yeah, just very quickly on Marzu. I'm still looking at holding. That's another thing I do like about having Ponga. If I bring in Ponga this week, is that I think we've seen that Ponga at fullback, he tends to favour the left-hand side. And I think having the duo of Marzu and Ponga is good. I think they can both potentially, give each other attacking stats. Well, mainly Ponga giving Marzu attacking stats. But so I kind of like having that double up. And I think Marzu is a season-long keeper in my opinion. Like, he went 134 in round 13. He's been super solid all season. Like 49 last time out when we had no major attacking stats. I think he had like 1 line break. If you can't really cover it this week and you had to go to Mulatalo, sure. But I suspect Marzu to be back next week. I think it was all kind of a disciplinary thing for being late for the team bus. For me, Marzu, I think, as a hold, I view him as like a top 4 or 5 center wing in my opinion. Like, at least having one Knights back, I think, either it's a Gagai or a Marzu. From Paycheck, hey man, who to sell next week to get Walker in via duels, Marzu or Johnston? Oof. I mean, I think I view Marzu as a better season keeper than Johnston, but AJ's got a better short-term draw. I can see myself selling AJ though in the future, like round 20. The Rabbitohs have a bye in round 20. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get Mulatalo in before round 19, but if I had to, it'd probably be by selling AJ, I think, or maybe maybe Manu instead. The problem with the Rabbitohs run home is they've got the bye in round 20, which is going to be, again, a crucial week post-Origin. And especially round 20 could be probably the biggest week for resting, given that we'll have 3 Origins up until that point. Then they also have the bye again in round 26. And really, the games are not the easiest. I mean, I want him for that 19 game for sure, but Broncos, sure, Tigers, but Sharks... Okay, look, the draw's not as bad as I thought it was. I thought it was a little bit worse, but it's actually not that bad. I don't know. I just prefer Marzu, if I'm being honest. So yes, for me it would be Marzu if you were looking to go get Walker. And I guess the thing is, if you go Marzu, but you're getting Walker and you sell Johnston, look, if Johnston's doing well, it's probably because of Cody doing well. So it's okay. You're kind of hedging your bets, I guess, a little bit there. What's the score to loop this week with Hines as captain? Yeah, great question. For me, I'm kind of looking at, honestly, I think it has to be above 95 or close to 100 for me to consider doing the loop. If it's like an 80, to be honest, I'll probably run the risk of Hines captaincy, because Hines has a really good floor. He's got really good base and for a halfback anyway, and he goal kicks and stuff. Like last week he did nothing really and got 43 points. If your VC gets 80 points, you don't loop, and Hines gets absolutely 0 attacking stats and gets 40, you've lost out by 40 points. It's not that big of a deal, but the flip side of what Hines can do, I think, is too great. So I think for me it has to be like 100 plus score for my VC, I think, to consider a loop. I kind of hope my VC just gets 75 and just makes my decision for me. I'll be very annoyed if the VC, to be honest, gets like 110, because then I'll be like, oh, do I take the loot? But look, if Ponga or Manu with my VC and went and got like 120, then yeah, I'd probably take it at that point. Do I hold Cleary for a round to bring in SJ next round, so then I can go from Schuster to Ponga, but sacrificing only having 13 players? I think that's a perfectly viable strategy. If you're not keen on going like a Hughes this week, I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I'm planning on getting SJ next week. I think he'll be a good target for next week. So nothing wrong with holding Cleary for this week, especially if you already have 13 for this week. You only need your best 13. And Schuster to Ponga, I think, is a good long-term move as well. Thoughts on a cheeky Cowboys tip for tonight? I think I've personally tipped the Panthers. Because the thing is, even like I went to the Roosters game, they had a lot of Origin. Well, not really. They had Cleary missing, but I mean, look, Roosters' attack's not been good, but Panthers' defense is just ridiculous. It's crazy how good their defense is, and I don't see that changing a lot without some of their Origin players. It's kind of more of a system. So yeah, for me, I'm still tipping Panthers, because the thing is, Cowboys are losing a lot too. No Holmes, no Robson. I know they're playing away. I know they're playing at home, but Penrith at Penrith. So I'm personally going Penrith at this stage. You can definitely go Cowboys because they've got less players out, but I'm sticking with Penrith. I think Penrith, according to ESPN Footy Tips, they're actually not the favourite anymore. $1.85 for Queensland, $1.95 for Penrith. I'm kind of surprised at that actually. But I've tipped Penrith tonight. All right, how much time we got? 22 and a half minutes. Okay, we still got enough time to get through your questions. Would you bring in Ponga this week if it means I'll only have 14 trades left? Look, yeah, I probably would. I'd probably do it, to be honest. Because I'm bringing Ponga in this week. I like him this week. I like what I've seen. I think he's a good price as well. 604k. It's not too expensive for someone who can. Like his season average is 60, but remember that's including a couple of games where he got injured very, very early. If you actually take into account the games where he's played like full 80 minutes, yes, he had that one game where he scored 16, but outside of that, we're looking at scores of. So this is purely like, we'll look at 50 plus minute games, which there was one game he played 53 minutes, but 72, 58, 16, obviously poor, 114, 50, 77, 92. And those last four scores all came in the last four rounds as well. So I think like a 5-round average of 70, 3-round of 73, like he's like value, I think, at 600k as well. So yeah, look, obviously the trades count is low, but yeah, I think Ponga is potentially worth it. Yeah, no Leota is a good point. No Moses Leota. Maybe I've got too much faith in Penrith, and maybe I need to go for the for the upset. But yeah, I don't know. I normally seem to do better on tipping when I just set it and leave it and don't mess with it. So I'm coming third in my work comp, which is good. So I think we'll just keep it going. We'll go Penrith. Although this week, if I can get a perfect week, that'd be awesome because you get plus 3 points, and it's obviously less games to tip on. Forward to Bateman, even though Bateman doesn't cover next week. Yeah, to me that's fine because look, I guess the way you see it is that Ford is not playing today or this week, I should say. So over the next two, they're both only playing the one game, but I definitely know I'd prefer Bateman to Ford. So yeah, I think that move is fine, Sebastian. Although New South Wales directly after you says, don't take the bait, man. I think Bateman will be fine. He's kind of going to be, I think if he keeps playing in the middle, he'll probably be like around this mid-60s to low 70s, I should say, average, which is fine. Like Ford is not going to give you that. Like Ford is probably going to just keep averaging around the 50s, I think. Okay, let's see. The Paco Laka, sorry if I've mispronounced that. Ford, Solo, Robson out for Hines, Nickera, Simpkin. Look, Hines obviously and Nickera are like, I'm assuming you're doing Robson to Simpkin to fund it, although I don't think that's a necessary move, but if that's your best downgrade, then sure, because you're getting Hines and Nickera. Still got Grant, Fafita, Bateman, Hosking, Haas, Tarbany. Okay, that's half your team. And they have 9k in the bank, but looking to move Katoa to Munster for the run home. I mean, sounds like a good plan. If you can move Katoa to Munster, then I think that's, sounds like a good plan. It's not an upset anymore. Panthers are underdogs. That's true. So maybe, that's right. But I'm tipping the underdog now. I'm tipping the Panthers, so I'm tipping for the upset, technically. So yeah, I'll take Penrith. Would I ride Johnson for the rest of the season with a much better run and Cleary muscle injury, or bring in Cleary for the run home? When you say Johnson, do you mean SJ, like Sean Johnson? Because Alex Johnson is a different position. That's kind of the reason why I'm going SJ next week as well, ideally, is that if there's any issue with Cleary and a recovery doesn't come back on time, whatever, I'm very comfortable having SJ as my run home halfback. His only other bye after this week is in round 22, which is a standalone week. It's after Origin. I think it should be a week that you should be able to cover. And I like the run home for the Warriors is quite good. So let's just quickly take a look at their draw. Like there's some really good games I know that they've got coming up. And he's got a low break even. I think his break even's like minus 15. So yeah, he's guaranteed to make money next week. So obviously Dragons next week is good. Rabbitohs, Parramatta, Sharks, and doesn't look the best, but remember, Rabbitohs have been leaky. They've leaked 30-something points to the Dragons. Parramatta will be without Moses again that week, and Junior Polo, or we think maybe no Moses. So I think this short term isn't ideal, but run home, Titans, Tigers, Manly, Dragons, Dolphins. Like if you theoretically, let's say you're a head-to-head player, and you were looking at your grand finals or whatnot, SJ could be a nice little pod there potentially. So look, I think SJ is perfectly viable to have as a run home guy. As Hamish says, Sean Johnson over Cleary for the run home and head-to-head finals. Perfectly viable as we've been looking at the draw. It's looking quite good for the Warriors. Just taking a quick look at Panthers in comparison. I mean, they don't have to. I mean, it's the Panthers, I guess, after all. But yeah, near term. See, this is the problem. If Cleary's out for these kind of games here, like 8/20/21. Then you're coming back to Sharks, Melbourne. Maybe you just take Johnson as a antipod over that period of time. So again, I think there's definitely upside to having Johnson, at least for the current period. I'm kind of annoyed, obviously I didn't go him last week, but last week I was pretty hell-bent on Moses, so no regrets, I guess. But yeah, in hindsight, would have been better to just go SJ last week. Hey man, I'm listening to this with a cold and blocked ears and I can't hear anything. Well, that's a shame. That's a shame, Jaden. Hopefully you feel better soon. Blocked ears is a very uncomfortable feeling, that's for sure. Yonkers, thank you for the $2.99. Love the haircut. Oh, thank you so much. I think I need to get in touch with Schwarzkopf and get them to give me a sponsorship of some type or something. So I just gave them a bunch of free advertising on Tuesday, shouting out their leave-in conditioner. I wasn't sponsored or anything, not paid, all that good disclaimer stuff. But if you guys are going to keep talking about my hair, I might have to reach out to them and say, look, I've got a very niche audience that I can help target for you. NRL SuperCoach fans who like my hair. And they'll be like, oh wow, okay, cool, yeah, let's do something. Dylan says, Dillbacks and Mulatalo / any front row forward 2RF. Went Cosson to Hines and have 12 trades left. 12 trades is very low, I will say. But Dillbags, I think, ultimately is a sell. So, I mean, any front row forward 2RF, I guess you could, it depends on what you need. Like, if your center wing's looking good, you could probably save going Mulatalo, and instead next week when maybe you need to cover next week a little bit more, maybe you go Dillbags to if you need a front row forward or a second row forward, maybe you go to Tino or something like that. So, again, depends how many players you have available this week to you. If you already have 13 or more, then fine, you can save it. And then you can get another week of information, and then you can decide what to do with Dillbags, I guess. Given Cody's return as TBC, would you go Walker to Hines? I don't think Walker will be out that long. I think he'll be back next week because the quad strain sounded very minor in nature. I think the Rabbitohs have shown that they've been quite conservative this season when it comes to managing injuries, especially to guns. And I don't think there's I'm going to quote physio here. He doesn't think there'll be that much re-injury risk. So I think if you can hold on to Walker, then sure. If you have no other way of getting to Hines, though, I think you need Hines. So yeah, I'd probably say do it, but it's not one that I love. If I had Dom Young, I'd VC him from Tom J. Although I think Tom J, you mentioned earlier, I think this is not the real Tom J, so I'm not sure. Yeah, look, that's a high upside play, obviously going Dom Young, but he can go very low. I think he scored 9 in round 1. Can we buy Haas next week while he's still pretty cheap? Yeah, absolutely. I think next week, especially these guys like Payne Haas and Tino, they just seem to back up, and they're just absolute machines. He's 692k with a break-even of 70. He got up to 770k at one point, so we are getting him at a somewhat decent price. I don't think there's anything wrong with going Haas next week, because round 19 as well, you can, if you've got someone like a Tohu or a Tarpany, they play that week as well, so I think you can cover him quite easily in round 19. So I don't see any issues trading Haas in early next week. Who am I playing at second row forward next week? Cassidy, that is a fantastic question. At this rate, probably no one. Probably Schuster, and if some miracle Matt Drury's still in the team next week, he should be playing this week. I saw that Sean Lane got cut from the squad from the Parramatta Eels, so I suspect that Drury's safe for a bench spot this week. If the same happens next week, then great. Otherwise, yep, next week my second row forward will be Josh Schuster, and that's it. There's not much I can do about it. So yeah, it's going to look pretty dire next week, my second row forward, but that's we'll ride with it. When am I going to start nothing? To be honest, I'm trying to avoid nothing because I already have Jack Howarth and I've got some deadwood like Matt Drury. Hopefully get rid of Jose Katoa next week. So if I were to nuff, maybe in the round 19 week, maybe around 20, just so you can start doing some good downgrades to maybe get your guns. So maybe in round 20, but I guess at any point, if you can avoid enough, then it's always good, especially this season. There's just all these, HIAs and restings and all that kind of stuff. Braden Burns, a half decent pod. I think someone at the very beginning of the stream asked this. The reason I wasn't too keen was he's coming back off a kind of a somewhat lengthy injury. I think his last game was a while ago. Let me just have a quick look. I know in his 2 games he scored quite well. Yeah, 85 and 106, but that was last in round 9. So he does have a negative break even. But, I mean, Sharks this week, No Burton now this week either. I have no idea how they're going to go. So yes, he'll make some money, but then he comes out of that into the Knights in round 18, and he misses round 17 as well. Knights at home is fine, but then it's the Rabbitohs, then it's the Broncos, then it's Panthers. Dolphins is fine, but then it's another bye. Like, I don't know, just for a moneymaker, like, I think I would just target some guns instead, if I'm being honest. So, yeah, I don't know about Braden Burns. If you're going for a pod, similar price as well, to be honest, I'd probably go Dom Young if I'm being honest. At least Dom Young plays next week as well. What about trading in Madison for a pod move? Yeah, we haven't really spoken about Madison. I think Madison is fine as a trade-in. If you haven't checked out my newsletter, I posted that, I think, on... must have been yesterday morning or Wednesday night. So in that, I ranked Hopgood above him, but to be honest, on second thoughts, I think Madison probably is the better play, because I think his minutes just longer term are probably going to be safer than Hopgood. Playing 5'8" this week is a bit strange, like in terms of his base, that's probably going to be a little bit lower, but maybe you get some attacking stats as well. I don't mind the trade-in of Madison as a pod, because he's just a guy who just seems to be, whenever he's on the field, he just seems to get SuperCoach points. And the nature of his injury was calf. So calf seemed to be a bit of a niggly one, and it seems to be a lot of players getting calf injuries this season. I don't know what's happening there. So yeah, it's definitely a pod move. And look, I think Madison has proven that he is a gun, SuperCoach, and quite skillful actually. So you wouldn't be all shocked if Madison got like a try assist, line break assist somehow this game. Fingers crossed to Gutherson. Plus maybe base of like 30. And we're looking at a 60-point minimum game from him. He does have a high break even, but he will play round 17, which is definitely very nice. And that game is against the Dolphins. So yeah, look, I think Madison sub 700k is not a bad option actually to go to. Is Hands a better option than Simkin, now playing 80? Yeah, so on Brendan Hands, I was trying to see what's happening with Josh Hodgson. In the chat, let me know, because I was trying to see, was he an injury or anything? I haven't seen anything posted by physio on Josh Hodgson. I might just have to go to NRL.com, like team list, to see if they gave an explanation, or maybe last week's one, because I think last week they may have said something. But yeah, because like if Brendan Hands is playing 80 minutes, then obviously the minutes are better than someone like Simkin, who I don't think will be getting 80 minutes. I think Simkin is more likely to be getting 55 to 60. Hands has actually shown that he can play 80 minutes. He's done it on 2 occasions this season. So I'm just going to quickly scroll to the team list website for NRL.com. Okay, so it says hooker Josh Hodgson was a late withdrawal from the Bulldogs game last week with a neck injury and remains sidelined. Okay, so it sounds like it's indefinite. So a neck injury sounds pretty serious, but we have no idea when he's coming back. I think Simkin is at least safer in that Coruscant is guaranteed to be out for like 6 to 8 weeks, whereas Hodgson, you're not quite sure. At which point, if Brendan Hands comes down back to his like kind of, interchange role, looking at his scores, we're looking at like, let's say from round 9 onwards, 28, 12, 24, 15, 30, 40. Like he even scored 40 in 80 minutes. So it's not even like in 80 minutes he's going fantastic. Simkin, I think, probably seems to have a little bit better work rate. I think I prefer Simkin. I think his job security is probably a little bit better. Out until round 22, apparently. I still think, just looking at those numbers, even in 80-minute games, I think I still prefer Simkin, in my opinion, if you are going for that Sonny Luke exit. Would I trade Nikorima for Simkin to build up your bank? Not really, to be honest. Nikorima has been just low-key really good for SuperCoach, and I think if you own him, nice little pod for you who's doing quite well. Since he pretty much got into the team as the starting 5'8", so this is from round 6, when he started playing 80-minute games. Started a little bit slow, 17, 29, 38, but since then, 68, 75, 97, 46, 73, 82, like, he's doing very well. And, the games coming out of the bye are a little bit tough with Parramatta, Broncos, Titans, and Penrith, but he's made money for you. I mean, the hooker spot, again, it's just so weak. To be honest, I would just stick with Nikorima if you got him. I just think he looks like a good option that you've got now on your team, who's probably hopefully made some money for you. I mean, fine if you wanted to build up your bank, but I'd hope that we're not having to chase money as much now, especially if you're looking to sell the likes of maybe your feeders and whatnot. How much time? We've got 8 minutes to go. Okay, we've got 8 minutes. I think the Ashes is on as well, isn't it? I'm going to have to decide what I'm watching. I'll have the benefit of dual screens. I'll have the footy on the TV and I'll put the cricket on the laptop. How good. How good. Who's more of a holder, Jeremy Marshall-King or Jack de Belin? They're both kind of equal, I guess. I mean, Jeremy Marshall-King, don't forget, he's been really, really good at hooker, which is, I keep saying it, very weak position. Jack de Belin's been fine, I think, as well. He hasn't played, I guess, since round 14. He does have a high break-even as well, Jack de Belin, 113 break-even. So I think if I was to sell one of the two, probably would be de Belin. All right, let's fire through some questions now over the next 7 minutes. And guys, if you have been enjoying the stream, please do give it a like as well. Really appreciate it. Mycar says Ponga, Gutho, Garrick, or Meany VC. Well, I think we kind of had this discussion a little bit earlier. I mean, out of those four, it's between Gutho or Ponga for me, which is weird to say because Garrick and Meany are the goal kickers. But I don't know, I feel like the Eels will have the edge over this game against Manly because Manly are missing so many players through Origin, whereas the Eels are just missing Moses and Junior Paulo. And while those are pretty big outs, I think the return of someone like Madison is really big for them as well. So Ponga or Gutho for me. I don't have any coins on me, otherwise I'd literally flip it because I'm still having the same dilemma. If I had to go one of the two, maybe Gutherson because he's goal kicking. Maybe Gutherson because he's goal kicking. Like Gutho's. I said on the Tuesday stream, Gutho is that type of player. He's like an Energizer bunny. Like he's just got so much. He's so fit. He just keeps running non-stop, and I think he will have that potential to just be like popping up on both sides of the field, ball playing, whatnot. It's a home game as well at Combank. Goal kicking. Ooh, I might be talking myself into a Gutho VC if I'm being honest. Yeah, to be honest, based on that, I might have to say Gutho. You're enough, Jack. What are the chances of him playing this year? Pretty much nil. I don't think he'll be getting a run out this season. How many numbers do you have next week? I went through it earlier. I'm missing like 7 players straight away next week, and add Howell to that, it's 8. So I'm in some pain next week. Do you think I'll be good or struggling round 19? Just having a quick look at my round 19. So I'm not going to include Damien Cook because I think he'll play there for New South Wales. If my team stays as is, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not going to count Drury. 8 Hines. Imagine SJ there, so 9. 10 Cody Walker. Asako 11. Johnson 12. Buller 13. Gutho 14. I think round 19 I should be looking okay. I'm already on 14 at this stage. So I think maybe I bring in one more player, but I might not even have to do anything. So yeah, I think 19 I should be looking okay. I think for me 17, so next round is going to be the painful week. I think during this whole bye period, round 17 looks to be the one that's going to trip me up, I think, the most. Am I worried about Ponga copying a HIA and scoring 5 points for the match? Obviously, there's that concern, but look, any player is at risk of a HIA. Obviously, Ponga slightly more, and that if he gets one, he's probably likely ruled out, which might be maybe enough doubt to not put the VC on him. But to be honest, I think if we were, I don't know, I kind of want to get out of that thinking a little bit because he's been playing very well. Fullback, he seems more comfortable at fullback too. So look, yes, but you could say the same thing. I'm worried about Nico Hines getting a HIA in the first 5 minutes and scoring 5 points as well. So try not to use that kind of logic to dictate my moves and stuff, I guess. So yeah, the concern is there, but I'm willing to overlook it. If it gives you any comfort, NRL Physio, probably the most conservative guy out there for Supercoach in terms of injuries and whatnot, he owns Kalyn Ponga. So there you go. Is Meany a season keeper at centre wing? Yeah, I think Meany probably is there in the top 6 or 7 centre wings for sure. I'm on Manu VC, feel like he drew a big score. Yeah, look, Manu VC is very popular and there's definitely a good reason for him to go big this week playing at fullback. Yeah, for me, it's one of Ponga, Manu, or Gutho VC. I still haven't decided yet, but hopefully a good night's sleep today and I'll wake up tomorrow morning and then it's just like, it's there, clicked in my head. But just follow me on Twitter or something and I'll definitely post who I'm ending up going with. How did the Roosters fix their attack? Major fishing adventures. I wish I had the answer. If I did, I'd probably be an NRL head coach and probably making way more money than I do currently. But I have no idea. I think it just needs to simplify their attack, to be honest. Like, Manu shouldn't be the 5'8". That's probably one. Sam Walker's going to be out for a few more weeks, if anyone's interested. So that probably means Manu's going to stay at 5'8" for a little bit longer. But I think Manu is not a ball player. He's a runner. So I think Manu, just keep him in the centres, just simplify the game. And you don't need, like, Brandon Smith can probably go maybe into a middle role instead of the dummy half. You don't need a fantastic dummy half. Like, the best dummy half the Roosters had since Jake Friend retired is probably Sam Verrills. We probably had our best success with Verrills, and he was just a very simple dummy half with good service. So maybe that, and just leave everything to the backline players. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm not a head coach for NRL. That's for sure. How long do we hold Taruva? Just very quickly on Taruva, I'm just very conscious of time. Panthers draw is quite good for the next few weeks, so I'm going to be holding him probably until round 19. To be honest, probably to round 21. Like Cowboys, Knights, Melbourne's tough, but then Dolphins in round 20, Bulldogs in round 21, maybe round 22 I look to upgrade, but until then, I think he'll be someone who I can very realistically see myself just holding. He's starting to get more attacking stats as well recently, which is good. Meaney or Mulatalo, mentioned it earlier. I think if you need the numbers next week, go Meaney. Otherwise, I do prefer Mulatalo out of the two for the rest of the year. I think the Sharks' draw is just better than Melbourne's, if I'm being honest. Sonny, a must-sell. Not a must-sell. He might play bigger minutes this week as well with some of the outs for Penrith. But look, if I was a Sonny Luke owner, I'd probably be trying to get rid of him because he's just been a pain in the neck. Alrighty, I think we've hopefully covered all of your questions. So we've got about a minute to go. So if there's anything else last minute, let me know. Otherwise, I'll probably just chit-chat to myself for the next minute or so. But yeah, good luck this week for sure. Would I go Tino or Payne for the run home? Probably Tino, if I'm being honest, because they have less buys in the Broncos. They've got no more buys left after this week. Yeah, and you've actually mentioned that in your comment as well. Yeah, probably Tino. I mean, Tino, seriously need to consider starting with him next season because the guy just seems to find attacking stats and just gets better and better each season. So yeah, look, probably Tino for me. He is a lot more expensive, but if you can afford that, then yeah, probably Tino. We'll have to pray for the Roosters. Connor Watson. Yeah, Connor Watson has been a big miss as well. He's just a great utility as well for the Chooks. All right, guys, we've got 45 seconds left. I'm not sure how many... how does Dylan Edwards go historically without Cleary? Oh, okay, that's going to be very tough to try to find out so late in the stream. But if I need to do a very quick check for you, just in case you're looking at trading in Dylan Edwards, can we do this very, very quickly? Last season when Cleary was out for those 5 weeks, I don't remember when it was, but Edwards pretty much was unchanged because his base stats were fine. So I think, to be honest, if anything, it's probably good for him in that he'll have more involvement. But I don't know. To be honest, I think he's pretty much unchanged. I don't think it really makes too much of a difference for him. All right, guys, we're pretty much out lockout. Thank you all for joining. Give the stream a like on the way out if you did enjoy it. Good luck for round 16. Hope you have a great weekend, I should say. And yeah, we'll be back on Sunday for the wrap-up stream to wrap up round 16 bye week. But take it easy, have a good one. Catch you next time.